The word is woke, but what do conservatives think it means?
Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining.
Socially conscious, you'd realize that white people stole that word from black people. Once again, doing the Elvis thing, right? But you know what? I blame...
First heard the phrase "stay woke," it was back in high school from the hoteps and the black empowerment people online, pretty much telling us black people to stay alert of racial injustice and discrimination that's still happening today, and not everything is what it may seem on the surface. But ever since the orange man became president of US of A, the term was modified and changed to something that pretty much makes the majority uncomfortable, whether it's sexually, politically, or racially. This new iteration of woke is all the rage in the mainstream, creating many arguments and debates throughout all of the Twitter spaces, Facebook, and the news stations. People crying over cartoons, TV shows, and movies. Shit's crazy. This has also trickled down into the depths of the comic book space. People arguing and being outraged over gay and trans characters being race swapped, and having trans or non-binary comic book writers, which I find pretty funny because being a fan of comics is already looked at as a subculture, which was always portrayed in the past as being weird or nerdy. Just, you know, a bunch of millhouses getting slapped up, wedgies and swirlies, and getting bullied pretty much for liking comic books. It's just funny now that to see a marginalized group trying to further marginalize others. But in manga, it's pretty woke, even if you don't consider it that way. None of the fandoms in manga care or make a big deal about it. In the most popular genre, shonen, there are a lot of homo-adjacent themes and characters. Let's take a look at Naruto, for example. The sexy jutsu, where Naruto would transform into a nude woman in order to throw off or persuade the more perverted characters into doing something that he wants them to do. In manga, this is just a gag or something funny, but in American comics, this would be seen as further pushing the gay or trans agenda and making men look effeminate or demasculating men. Let me give you another example for Naruto. One of the better characters, the great Orochimaru, who essentially is a non-binary character. Throughout the whole entire series, Orochimaru is portrayed as a male and female because he just would body swap throughout the whole entire series. If this was done in American comics, it would be another point of contention for the people who seek these culture war issues to go at comic books for. Another character from Assassination Classroom, Nagasai Shioto, is a feminine boy character who looks more female than he does male and often gets mistaken as a girl at times. In the second season of the series, they explain why he looks like a female, that his mother like pressured him into dressing like a girl and stuff like that. But again, adding on to the point where if this was done in American comics, it would be a bigger issue than it needed to be, as where manga fans just wouldn't even care. As long as the story's good, as long as it's just what it is, it doesn't matter. Okay, so another character that I almost forgot to mention, who is a part of this like homo adjacent, trans, cross-gender group, is another character from Naruto, which is kind of funny because a lot of them that I've picked up from Naruto. As you can tell, I am a Naruto fan, so but this character is Haku. Haku is one of the first like villains in the early part of Naruto, for those who haven't seen it. And at first they present as a female, dressed like a female, and even Naruto thinks they're a female, you know, calls them pretty and all this other stuff, but then comes to find out Haku is a boy. So I think that's just another interesting character in the world of Naruto and in manga that blurs the lines between gender fluidity and stuff like that wouldn't necessarily be accepted in the American comic book space. And Marvel and DC has tried to do this before. They have this new character named Zenith and a few other non-binary characters, and whenever they've been put out to the mainstream audience, there's always been a fit or an uproar about these characters, and I just don't get it. I have some more examples of things that would be considered woke in American comics, but in manga, it just doesn't really seem to matter. Nobody really makes a big deal about it. In one of my favorite manga series, 20th Century Boys, about halfway through the series, there are two trans characters who become very important parts of the story. They help move the plot forward in a very big way. And I don't want to spoil their roles in the series. If you haven't read 20th Century Boys, I would highly recommend it. It's a really good series, and these characters are actually pretty good series. But in the perspective of American comic book commentators or whatever, they would see this again as some part of some sort of agenda or some DIE type of shit. Speaking of DIE, let's talk about the girl boss, which is a subsection of wokeness, at least according to anti-woke people. A girl boss was first a positive term for empowered women, but now it's more of a satirical term used for women who empower themselves, who are empowered, but not by merit. They're just given this role as a boss or a leader because they're a female and they're just another mark checked on the box of the DIE survey, which that is what the anti-woke people say or whatever. In this girl boss trope has trickled down into our media where the main protagonists in a lot of movie franchises are female. The biggest example is in Star Wars when the sequel trilogy came out with the introduction of Rey. A slew of female-led superhero movies, fantasy movies, and TV shows came out. And after not so few good movies and shows under this genre, lo and behold, the wokeness tag was added to those series, just pretty much stating that they're just putting females at the forefront of these series just because it's a woke agenda or whatever have you. Your guess is as good as mine. In the manga and anime community, though, there has been and has been so many women protagonists and creators. There have been so many manga that have come out with female leads and have gotten tons of praise. Arguably the best manga and anime series of all time, Full Metal Alchemist, was created by a female. I don't see any of it getting any backlash. No accusations stating that females can't write shonen manga. When a female tries to write a superhero character, they are heavily criticized, not for their work in the comic book, but just for them being who they are. I just find it funny and interesting how American comic book fans versus manga fans view the medium they indulge in, as where manga fans really only care about the series and that's it. The only toxic thing about manga fans is that they're all group thinkers. If they generally agree on the same perspective on a manga or anime series, don't you dare try to convince them otherwise. Trust me, I tried it in the past with a few videos and I got flamed up in my comments even though I feel like I made valid points and criticisms of the series that I was talking about. Whatever, right? American comics fans, especially the ones of mainstream Marvel and DC, literally only talk about the politics of comics and the behind the scenes issues or things. It's rare to hear people talk about the stories, the crossover events, this new character, that new character and such. Everyone just wants to go on Twitter and at their favorite Marvel or DC writer or their most hated Marvel or DC writer and tell them how bad of a job they're doing or talk so much shit to them about literally made up fictional characters that have been around for hundreds of years. Of course, they're going to have multiple different iterations of a Spider-Man or a Batman or Superman or whatever have you. And honestly, it's just really sad. All these people crying over these characters being gay or being black or Asian or whatever the hell, but they never had any intention of reading the comic in the first place. So I don't even understand what you're complaining about. At least read the book before you go and complain about it. There's so many people online who just bait and uses hate farming and whatever just to get clicks and views nowadays. Nobody even cares about the content of the comic or whatever. I mean, look at what they did with The Little Mermaid. 40-year-old men complaining about a movie that is literally intended for little kids, little girls. Just because The Little Mermaid is black, it didn't mean nothing. The demographic wasn't for you to begin with. So I just, I don't understand it. It's just a weird time. My last thoughts on this topic isn't to say that manga fans are more liberal thinking or woke or whatever than comic book fans, or that mangakas are woke, because clearly some of them, there are clear examples of racial depictions of black people in the older mangas and the way they view and have perspective on women and sex and stuff like that. And some of these manga are very sketch at times. And it just seems that manga fans really are here to indulge in a good series and don't care what the series is about as long as it's good. As where comic book fans just don't seem to even give it a chance because they see on the cover or in the synopsis or one person makes a review about it and just says, oh, it's gay or it's a DIE or it's woke, so don't even read it. And so it's like, it's just really weird. So again, this just brings me back to the question, what is wokeness? Because apparently woke is different to everybody, so I just don't really get what the issue is or what we're talking about.